What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Us versus Them channel. I'm your host, Vince, and we're going to break down some of the prelims for the fights for the upcoming fight night this week, Walker versus Zhang. I'm excited about these fights. I've been breaking them down all week, so let's just get right into it. First, I want to say thank you guys for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I'm always super appreciative of you guys taking your time to watch my shit. I'll never ask you guys. I'll never sell picks. Not like you'd buy them anyway. But the only thing I'll ever ask from you guys is your time, so I really appreciate that. Anyway, first fight of the night, we have, bear with me on the fucking pronunciations, we have Dr. Nergoze versus Uran Satabalyev. We're going to put the names down there. Nergoze is sitting at a plus 114 favorite, and Satabalyev is sitting at a minus 146 underdog. He's the favorite. We're flying through this one today. We're going to try to do no edits, try to keep it nice and smooth. So if I have to stop talking for a second, fucking bear with me, all right? Nergoze is a big power puncher. That's one thing I noticed when I was breaking down his fights. He likes to go into boxing range so he can cause damage, but he also mixes in solid body kicks. He's a fucking hammer on his feet. He showed in the Brinson Ribiera fight, though, that his chin is not great. Doesn't hold up so well. He got dropped in the first round and then got submitted with the Kimura later in the fight, so his chin's kind of a liability. Satabalyev, or however you say his name, you guys bear with me. He fights like a lot like Mektabek Oralbai, that 155-pounder. They're from the same country. They kind of look similarly, but if you guys watch this guy fight and Oralbai fight, it's almost identical. They are a buzzsaw early in the fight. They are constantly looking for damage, whether they're on their feet or on top. If they do go on bottom somehow, they scramble to get back up. They don't stop moving. When this dude's on top of you, he is a fucking problem. He's either looking to advance position, he's looking to do a ground and pound, or to lock up a submission. There is no breaks when this dude's on top. One thing I did notice, though, is he tends to slow down as the fight goes on, which we see that with Oralbai, too. You know, he's still dangerous throughout the fight, and this guy is, too. But as the fight goes on, he starts to slow down. He still has that mentality where he's not going to stop moving and not going to stop looking for damage. So it still makes him a threat. Satabalyev, his striking, as far as technical, is not the greatest, but it's still really effective because he's looking to wrestle pretty early on and often. So anytime you're facing a wrestler, you're always going to look out for the wrestling. So it's going to open up some combinations on their feet. And just like Oralbai, this Satabalyev guy is still looking for damage and still looking to, he still gets big punches in the striking. What's his name? Nergoze. His striking is way more technical. Like I said, he mixes in the kicks really well. But I'm really interested to see how this fight goes on their feet. But I already know how it's going to go in the sense of Satabalyev is going to look to get the fight on the ground. I think he's going to be able to do that. And once he's on the ground, he's going to really start to do some damage. I'm going with Satabalyev. And I feel like I've said his name 100 different ways. Satabalyev, I'm going with him by decision. I think he'll eventually probably drop a round, probably towards, the second or third round. So I'm looking at a 29-28 for Satabalyev. You guys are going to have to bear with me on the pronunciations. We're fighting in China this week. So these Eastern, European and Asian, I'm just not good with that. So next we have Zhang versus Su Young Yu. You guys ever seen Austin Powers where he's like, "Fuck you, no, fuck me"? That's exactly what I was thinking when I saw this guy's name. Both these guys are really well-rounded fighters, but they both will have certain areas where they're going to want to keep the fight. I think Long, I'm going to call him Long because that's way easier. I think he's going to look to definitely keep it on the feet because he's going to land with more power. He's got a power advantage for sure, and he'll probably have a speed advantage too in the striking. And Yu, fuck you, Yu's going to want to wrestle. Yu's a better wrestler. He's a grappler. He's always looking to mix in wrestling. It doesn't matter what opponent it is. So I don't think that's going to be any different when he's fighting Zhang Long. Su Young Long has really good transitions in the grappling. If he's able to get the fight there. I mean, I can't remember exactly what his name is. It's like Jiu-Jitsu or something like that, which is a pretty slick name. But speaking of slick, his grappling is pretty slick. His back takes are really nice. But one thing I did notice is he's not able to control guys when he gets them on the ground. And that's where the wrestling factor comes in. And if you can't control guys on the ground, you can't really implement your jiu-jitsu. For my prediction, I think this one's also going to go to decision. Both these guys are pretty durable. They don't get finished often. And especially, like I said, if anybody's going to get a finish, it's going to be Zhao Long. I forget his pronunciation. But, just because he's got power in his hands, he's got some pop in his hands. But I do think Yu is going to keep himself safe during this fight, in the sense of, he's not going to get finished. We've seen Zhao Long fight tough grapplers before, guys who are looking to get the fight on the ground, and his takedown defense is pretty good. It's sufficient for this fight at least. So I think that his sprawl and brawl approach is going to get him lead him to the victory, and I think he's going to win by decision. Next fight we're going to be breaking down is Yiza versus Weston Wilson. Thank God for you, Weston Wilson. I don't have to do a bunch of tongue twisters just to pronounce a fucking name. This is the biggest favorite of the card, though. Yiza is sitting at a minus 1,800 favorite, and Weston Wilson is sitting at a plus 800 underdog. Yiza has a really talented ground game. He will lean on his submissions and his jiu-jitsu to win fights. He's got 25 wins, and 14 of those wins are coming by way of submission. So he's definitely looking to choke somebody out or, crank on a shoulder or something like that. He also displayed a lot of toughness in this Gabriel Santos fight. Gabriel Santos is a fucking hammer. That's a tough dude to be fighting on your debut. He went the distance to Lerone Murphy, lost a split decision, arguably won that. And obviously that's a great fighter. We just saw that this past weekend. So Yiza showed, like I said, he's durable, he's tough, and he can take shots. He took shots against Gabriel Santos. There's nothing that Weston Wilson's going to give him on their feet that he hasn't seen before. Weston Wilson's a rangy fighter, but he doesn't really use his range really effectively in fights. I think if he just worked on his jab really well and just implemented more leg kicks, he could find more success in fights. But he just chooses not to. I've definitely seen him when I was doing film study of him trying to fight in range, but that also requires you moving your feet. If somebody's a shorter fighter, more powerful, and they rush in, you got to circle. You can't run backwards. The cage is going to eventually catch you. And guys are more fast when they're rushing forward than you are rushing backwards. So he doesn't utilize his footwork enough to fight at range, and he doesn't throw enough jabs out there to fight at range. But he is tricky on bottom. I don't want to say he's dangerous with his jiu-jitsu, but he's very fucking tricky. That's where he does utilize his range, and it could give Yiza some problems. One thing to notice about Weston Wilson, which is easy to notice on his Tapology, is this dude is live or die by the fucking sword. In his last 19 fights, 18 of them finished in the first round. 18 of the last 19 fights finished in the first round. Whether he won or lost, it's happening in the first round. I respect fighters like that. I love fighters like that. It's fighters like that built the UFC. And, we just want to see guys out there that are willing to live and die on that sword. And Weston Wilson, whether you judge him for his fighting credentials or not, you have to give him that respect. But, he is a big underdog, and I think he's a big underdog for a reason. Yiza is going to be too much for him. I think Yiza's path to least resistance is keeping it on his feet. But even if he does go to the ground, I think he's good enough at jiu-jitsu where he's not going to get caught in a submission from the bottom, which is pretty much Weston Wilson's only path to victory. It's throwing up a triangle choke or something from the bottom, and you can never count on that. So I think this fight is going to be a finish for sure because Weston Wilson's in it. God love him. And, I think the submission prop, I'm going with the Yiza by submission, but I do think the KO prop is really live too. Next fight we're getting into is Mikhail Pereira versus Kyle Daukaus. Pereira is sitting at a minus 295 favorite, and Daukaus is at a plus 220 underdog. Listen, we all know Mikhail Pereira as a fighter. He's super fucking explosive. He is durable. He's always looking to explode in and implement damage. In his last 3 fights that he's won, he got it done in under a minute and a half, all of them. And he's always using his striking to set up, whether it's explode in with a big shot, hurt a guy, and then swarm him with ground and pound. Or we saw in the Olin Jacek fight where he blasted him with a nice jab, I believe it was. No, it was a body shot. He ripped into the body. He bent him over a little bit. He started going backwards. Instead of just, landing a bunch of punches, he went and ground around his throat and choked him out. So he's dangerous everywhere, and he's super fun to watch. I mean, we know, like, he's the type of guy that'll do, like, backflips over guys. I know if you're watching my fucking obscure small channel, these are not things that you don't already know. But, I mean, we love watching Michel Pierre fight for that reason. Pierre has lightning fast body kicks, too. He implements those early in fights, and I think that could be a huge factor against Kyle Daukaus. One thing I've noticed about Kyle Daukaus that concerns me a little bit is his durability. We saw that especially in the Eric Anders fight. Eric Anders was able to implement damage on him early. I think he was coming off like a surgery on his like orbital bone or something like that, so maybe he rushed into that fight too soon. There was also a clash of heads where they had to stop the fight for that, so he was getting his bell rung a little bit. But even outside of that, he was taking some fucking shots too, and he was getting reactions every time he was taking shots. And if you're getting knocked down or getting your head whipped back like it's Rocky Balboa fights, that's scoring big on the judges' scorecards. Daukaus is making his return back to the UFC after being cut. He's on a 4-fight win streak in Cage Fighters organization. 3 of those wins by finish. And I broke down some of those fights, and I gotta be honest with you, I haven't seen a lot of evolution from Kyle Daukaus since he's left. He's still the exact same fighter. He's rangy, so he's going to throw his jabs out there. Maybe his jabs have improved a little bit, but he does tend to pull guard, which we all know I fucking hate when that happens. That's not how you win fights. I could see him doing that dumbass shit this weekend too. Hopefully not. But it doesn't seem like he's evolved much in his fighting at all. I think the big difference in this fight is going to be the power that Pierre has. I mean, he's super freaking dangerous. When he lands clean, and he's going to land clean, he's going to cause damage on Daukaus. Like I said, whether it's a knockdown or something like that. And Michel Pereira is the last guy that you want to have blood in the water with. Because once that happens, he's very efficient at getting fights out of there. So for my official prediction, I'm going with Pereira by knockout, probably in round 1. But another prop, if you want to, have another prop to look at, the submission prop for for Kyle Daukaus is going to be probably a long shot. So if you want to do a little sprinkle in there, that might be a good idea too. Next fight we're going to be breaking down is Rong Zhu versus Austin Hubbard. Rong Zhu is sitting at a -280 favorite, and Hubbard is at a +210 underdog. Rong Zhu is a solid striker. He mixes in his kicks and his punches really well, and he mixes in those kicks early too, especially the leg kicks. He wants to slow guys down and keep them a little bit more less mobile, I guess, so he can start working from his range that he wants to. He's also going to stand right in front of somebody and fucking trade, which is always exciting to see. It's super entertaining. I'm not sure how much he's going to do that Austin Hubbard, though, because Austin Hubbard is not known, but as far as his striking skills, he's much better on the back foot, counter-striking. So I definitely see Rong Zhu leading the dance, but he's got to watch for those counter-strikes from Hubbard. I do think Rong Zhu is going to have an advantage on their feet, though. He's going to have a power advantage. He's going to land the cleaner shots. And I think he's going to land the cleaner shots, too, because he's also going to have a speed advantage. That's a big difference in this fight. And his takedown defense is really good, too. Not really good. I don't want to give him too much credit, but he has pretty solid takedown defense. One thing we did know about Rong Zhu, though, is when he gets taken down, he can be kind of a little bit of a turtle on his back. He's kind of just stuck there. And that's going to be Austin Hubbard's path to victory. I think if Austin Hubbard is able to get the fight to the ground early, it's going to be a big difference in this fight. If he's on top of Rong Zhu for 3.5, 4 minutes in the first round, I think it's pretty much over. Obviously Rong Zhu could still get a knockout and shit, but if that happens early in the fight, it's going to be looking good for Hubbard. I think this fight is going to be a lot closer than the line suggests. I don't think that Hubbard or Rong Zhu should be almost a 3-1 favorite. I'm just not seeing that. And Hubbard is the kind of guy that you could put him in there with almost anybody in the division, and he's going to keep it a relatively close fight. That's just how he fights. Sometimes that's to his detriment, though. He's got to put himself out there. And take risks, because you have to take risks in order to get damage. So sometimes he keeps himself too safe. But like I said, I think he's going to look into mixing the grappling. I do think that he's going to be able to find some grappling at some point in this fight and maybe steal a round. But I'm going with Rong Zhu on this one by decision. I think this is going to be probably a 29-28 as well. It could also be a split decision too. So if you want to pepper in another way, Austin Hubbard by decision is probably going to be a really nice line. All right, guys, last fight we're going to get into today, we have Loner Kavanaugh versus Charles Johnson. Loner Kavanaugh sitting at a -220 favorite, and Charles Johnson is a +168 underdog. I think these lines are pretty close to where they should be, with Kavanaugh being a moderate favorite. But when you break down both these guys, I mean, it's clear to see they both are really good everywhere. I'm a big fan of both these guys, and they're both tricky fighters in this division. Kavanaugh is really good with his boxing. But he also mixes in his kicking really well too. The way he picks his strikes is really high level, and that's what makes him so tough on his feet. He really extends his combos nicely too. He works to the body and sets it up so people can drop their guard a little bit, and then he goes up top with nice concussive blows. He's really fast on his feet. He punches hard for the division, and he's tricky for anybody at 125. Johnson's also really good on his feet too, but maybe a step behind Kavanaugh. He's got a 5'9" frame for 125, so he's used to being the rangier fighter in the division, and he's gonna have I think a 5-inch advantage over Kavanaugh. So he's gonna mix in his rangy strikes, his kicks, and he's gonna attack the body with with body kicks. He has lightning fast body kicks that he uses to attack the cardio, and also so it can drop the hands of whoever he's fighting. I think body shots are gonna be active from both fighters here. One thing I really like about Kavanaugh is his footwork. The way he's able to glide in and out, it just seems like he's gliding on water. He's really, really good with his footwork, and he also does really good with the counter striking. I'm not super knowledgeable with striking, but I can appreciate a good striker when I see one, and Kavanaugh's definitely that. He's particularly good at counter striking. He gets just out of range in the way he slips through and attacks the body. It's like an old school Mike Tyson almost. But his footwork is what sets that up. He gets off center line, just gets out of range, gets off center line and attacks. And that's what makes his strikes so accurate. I feel like I'm playing repeat every time I break these guys down because Johnson's also really good with his footwork too. The way he glides laterally, he does that really well. And that's what also sets up a lot of his strikes. His frame is going to help with that as well, but he's really, really quick when he's moving side to side. I think this fight's going to be a close fight, to be honest with you. I think, I favor Kavanaugh in this fight, but the one thing that makes me uncomfortable is just betting against Johnson. He's proven time and time again that if you count him out, he's the type of fighter that, will blow up parlays if you bet against him. So it makes me a little bit nervous to bet against Johnson. But, I do lean towards Kavanaugh. The one thing that makes me a little bit nervous is this is not the toughest fighter that Johnson's ever fought, but this is probably going to be the toughest fighter that Kavanaugh's ever fought. So that's just something to be worth noting. I'm going with Kavanaugh on this one though, just because Johnson has a knack for starting out a little bit too slow in fights and kind of picking it up as it goes along. He's known to be dangerous in round 3, but that's with fighters who maybe their cardio will fade. Kavanaugh's cardio is not going to fade. He paces himself really, really good, like super high level IQ. For a 9-0 fighter especially. So I don't think his cardio is going to be an issue. And given the fact, like I said, Johnson will start out slow and Kavanaugh is not going to, I'm going with Kavanaugh by decision on this one. But like I said, third round could be a tricky round for him. The one thing, I didn't see a lot of value when I was looking at this fight and breaking it down. Kavanaugh sitting by decision as a -110 right now, and I don't really like that line, just given how hard he hits and stuff. Johnson has never been finished in a pro fight, and that is also worth noting. So the decision prop's live, but both these fighters are pretty good at submissions. And I did see on FanDuel they have a +1500 line for it to end by submission either way. So if you're feeling really ballsy, and if you're feeling ballsy, you can rock Johnson. But if you're feeling real ballsy, that +1500, I'm not gonna touch it, but I do see value in that. Well, that's all I got for you guys. We're going to break down the main card tomorrow and get that video out for you as soon as I get the research done on it. But like I said, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my videos, especially if you're still watching at the very end. I'm super fucking appreciative of that. Like I said, I'm always, I'm just a humble guy, so I'm always going to be humbly grateful for every moment you guys give me. But with that, I'm out of here, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow.